I'm 87 years old, and this morning I counted them. 10 questions. 10 questions that nobody in 87 years has ever thought to ask me. I am not angry about it. I want to say that first because a man my age says one true sentence and people go looking for the complaint underneath it. There is none underneath this one. People come to my door and they are kind. They ask if I slept. They ask if I'm eating. They ask if the room is warm enough. Good questions, all three, and I answer all three. Those are doorway questions. Behind the door, there are 10 answers I have been keeping, finished and folded with nowhere to go. So sit with me a while. Pull your chair closer to the fire, as if you had nowhere else to be tonight. I am not going to tell you that people are careless because they are not. I am not going to tell you that families forget, or that the young have gone cold. That is the easy story, and it comforts nobody. What I have is quieter than that, and stranger. An old man does not go silent because he ran out of words. By the end of these 10, you will know exactly what he ran out of instead, and know it well enough to fix it in your own house tonight. My grandmother kept a rule in her house, and that rule embarrassed people. When somebody came through her door, she did not hand them a cup or pull out a chair. She asked one question first, and then she did the part almost nobody can do. She stayed quiet. Quiet long past the place where the rest of us rush in and rescue a person from their own silence. So the visitor would answer once, fast and polite, the way we all answer. And then, because that silence was still sitting there, they would answer a second time. The second answer was the true one. It always was. She did that to grown men who had not told the truth about themselves in 20 years, and every one of them came back. My grandmother said one thing about it, and it is the spine of everything that follows. A person is not a well you drink from. A person is a well you have to lower something into first. So here is the first confession. All 10 of mine arrive in the same shape. Each one is a question that has never been put to me. The first is this. What did you have to teach yourself at 80 that you had never had to learn before? Nobody asks it. Everybody assumes that by 80 the learning is finished and an old man only spends down what he already had. It is not true. I learned more that year than I did at 30, and I learned all of it with nobody watching. There is a river near where I grew up that lost one of its 2 channels in a spring flood. It did not run half. It ran narrower and faster, and inside 4 years it had cut a bank nobody alive had ever mapped. I think of a woman named Alma, who at 84 went and bought herself a smaller pan. She told me it was the hardest thing she ever paid money for. I understood her exactly, and no one has ever asked me how. Before the second one, let me set one thing down. I wrote a book. It is called The Native Way, and it carries the rest of this, my grandmother's sayings, the old ways of sitting with a person, the whole quiet craft of it that I can only get a few pieces of into one evening by a fire. You will find the link in the description below this video. There is no pressure at all. None. If your heart wants it, it is sitting there waiting for you. If it does not, then stay right where you are and keep listening, because you are what I came out here for tonight, and I am not going to mention it twice. That is all of it. Now come back to the fire with me. Let me give you the second confession. The second question is this. What are you still good at? Every visitor I have had in 10 years has asked me some form of what I can no longer do. Can you still manage the porch step? Can you still hear me from the other room? Those are honest questions, and I give them honest answers. But that sentence has a second half, and in 10 years not one person has turned it over to look. The old dog does not run the field anymore, and everybody in the yard can see it. That same old dog is still the only animal on the place that hears the truck a half-mile out before it ever turns off the highway. There was a man we called Otis. Somebody finally asked him at 90 what he could still do, and he did not say one word about his legs. He said, "I can still tell you which of your friends is lying to you." He was right about all 3 of them, and it took everybody else 2 years to catch up to him. The third question, who taught you that? People take what I give them. Some of them write it down, and then they carry it out my door with the name stripped off it, and the name was the half that mattered. When I go, the saying may well outlast me. The woman who said it to me will not. The water in your cup came out of a spring somewhere. Drink from that cup long enough without ever asking, and you will forget there was a spring at all. We had a woman we called Grandmother Quiet Hands, and she would not answer any question you brought her until you first told her who had taught you the thing you already knew. People thought she was being difficult with them. She was being careful. She was making sure nothing left her house with its people torn off it. The fourth question, and this one is really two, which is why it never gets finished. What was your hardest year, and what happened in the year after it? People ask the first half. They lean in for the first half. Then they have what they came for, and the talk moves on. And the teaching, all of it, every last bit of it, is sitting in the second half that nobody asks. Go and look at a burned hillside sometime. The fire is not the story. Anybody can tell you about a fire. The story is the second spring, when the fireweed comes up through that black ground, thicker and taller than anything that ever grew there before it burned. Levi told the story of the flood for 30 years. 30 years of telling it. And he never once told anybody about the summer after, the one he spent rebuilding, and that was the better story, and it was the only one he truly knew anything about. The fifth question. What do you do between 4 and 6 in the afternoon? Nobody asks about the ordinary hours. They ask about the big things, the wedding and the war, and the year we lost the house. But my life is not in the big things anymore. My life is almost entirely made of ordinary hours now, and no one has ever come looking for me there. Nobody names the shallow part of a creek. It is on no map anywhere, and it is the exact place where every animal in that whole country walks down to drink. Cora told me once that she spent her afternoons watching the light move across one wall. She said it plainly, the way you would say your own address. She meant it as an answer. She did not mean it as an apology, and I have thought about the distance between those two things every day since. The sixth question, and I will warn you, this is the one that costs something. What do you want? People ask me what I need. Need is a list, and a list can be closed, and a person feels good closing it. Nobody asks what I want. Want is mine. Want has no ceiling on it, and nobody else can finish it for me. And a man is allowed to have one at 87 exactly the same as he was at 19. A well-fed horse will still walk out to the gate in the evening and stand there, looking down a road at nothing at all. Ambrose was given everything he needed for 4 straight years. Everything. And not once did anybody ask what he would have liked. The whole time he wanted to see the ocean one more time, 200 miles off, no farther than that. And he never said it out loud, because nobody ever made a place in the room where a sentence like that could stand up. The seventh question. What are you afraid of? Everyone believes they already know this answer, so nobody troubles to ask it. And they are wrong. They are wrong about nearly every one of us. The horse is not afraid of the rope. The horse has seen the rope its whole life. The horse is afraid of the hand that comes at it sideways. Naomi said hers straight out to me once. She said, "What frightens me is being talked about in the third person while I am sitting right here in the room. Not the end of things. That." My grandfather said the old ones do not go quiet because they ran out of words. They go quiet because they ran out of people asking. The eighth question, what have you changed your mind about? The young get asked this constantly. It is nearly the whole of how we talk to them. The old are assumed to be finished, set like a post in concrete. But I have changed my mind about 4 large things since I turned 70, and nobody has ever come to collect a single one of them. The riverbed is not where it was 100 years ago. Go and stand on the old bank if you doubt me. And the river never once announced that it had moved. Gideon changed his mind about his own brother at 79. He drove 4 hours to say so, in weather he had no business driving in. He told me afterward that the drive had been the easy part. The 9th question, and it is the one I would want most of all. Will you show me? Everybody asks me to tell them. Telling is a story, and a story is a fine thing to be handed. Showing is a transfer. Only one of those two outlasts the man doing it, and it is not the story. A song about a trail is not a trail. You can sing it perfectly and there is still nothing on the ground. A trail gets made by the second pair of feet. Pearl could describe setting a snare for a solid hour and hold a whole room while she did it. And it never got into anybody's hands, not once, not in 50 years, until a child asked her to do it slowly, right there on the floor, and then to do the whole thing over one more time. And the 10th question is, are you happy? I'm not going to answer that one for you here. That is not me being clever. It is that my answer was never the thing I learned. The well nobody lowers a bucket into is not empty. That is what people have wrong about it. The water is there the entire time. It simply never comes up anywhere a person can see it. What I learned was this. I sat on my own step one afternoon and understood that in 87 years not one living soul had ever asked me that, and that I had gone the whole way without knowing what I would say back. And that same afternoon I got up off the step and I walked down the road and I asked it of somebody else. Now let me say the hard part, because I have been walking circles around it all evening. This is not a grievance. Nobody did this to me. If you have been sitting there through these 10, quietly building a case against your own family, put it down. Put it down now, because it is the wrong case. And I am about to hand you the evidence against it myself. People ask about sleeping and eating and whether the room is warm because those are the parts of an old man that are visible from a doorway. That is not coldness. That is a doorway. Anybody standing in one would ask the same 3 things. And you would, and I did. Here is mine, and it is the only reason I can say all this with no heat in my voice at all. I went 40 years without asking my own father a single one of these 10. 40 years. He sat across a table from me with all 10 answers finished inside him, and I asked him if he was warm enough, and then I went home. So I am not describing something that was done to me. I am describing something I did first, and did longer, and did to a man who is not here anymore for me to make it right with. Naming that is not the same as hating myself. It never was. It is behavior, a thing a man does, not a thing a man is. And behavior is the only kind of thing a person can ever put down. So let me gather this up for you now, the way my grandmother gathered the ends of her shawl. What did you have to teach yourself late? What are you still good at? Who taught you that? What was your hardest year, and what came the year after? What do you do between 4 and 6? What do you want? What are you afraid of? What have you changed your mind about? Will you show me? Are you happy? 10. And now I'm going to turn every one of them around and set them down in your house instead of mine. Who is in your life that you have only ever asked doorway questions? Whose hardest year do you know only the first half of? Whose name has gone missing off a saying you repeat all the time? Who in your family has been told what they need for so long that no one has thought to ask them what they want? You do not have to do all 10. Pick one. Ask it once, and then do the hard part. The part my grandmother did to grown men in her kitchen. Be quiet. Wait for the second answer. And I know there is one more question in this room, because you have been carrying it since I started. It is not one of my 10. It is yours. Is it too late for me? What if nobody ever asks me either? I am not going to promise you that somebody will. I do not know your family, and I will not make you a promise about people I have never met. Here is what stays true no matter how many years you are carrying tonight. You are allowed to answer a question nobody asked you. Say it to a grandchild. Say it to a neighbor over a fence. Say it out loud in an empty room to a notebook if a notebook is what there is. The well does not care who lowers the bucket. So tell me now of those 10 which number hit closest to home tonight, and which one has been sitting in you the longest without a place to go. Say the number to me in the comments and say who you thought of when I read it out, because I read every one of them, every single one, and there is not a night that I do not. Then come back and sit with me again tomorrow evening, I will keep the chair right here by the fire where it is, and I will leave it turned toward you.